Station.Bakersfield.com.
Welcome back to the TBC Media Studios in downtown Bakersfield. Zach Ewing and Trevor Horn working our way through Week 8 predictions. That's what makes me feel old more than anything, is that every high school football season, I'm thinking, okay, it's still early season. Still Week 8.
Yeah.
Week 8, 2 weeks from Saturday, the section commissioners are going to sit down in Porterville and give us playoff seating. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. But you know what's crazy is I was talking to Dennis Manning today, and we have a story about Ridgeview in tomorrow's paper. You know, from their perspective, the season's only half over when you look at a team like that has aspirations.
And that's absolutely true. And right now, Ridgeview, and we'll get to them in a minute, they're kind of enjoying this like halftime break almost. I mean, they're going to play some starters against East High for a quarter, but that's all they're going to have to play. And that's nothing against East High. I mean, that's just reality of the situation. Yeah. Ridgeview is not going to want to risk any injuries, and they'll get out to a lead. They'll rest some guys. These guys are getting rest, and then they're going to have to gear it back up for what should be a really deep D2 playoffs, by the way, and then possibly for a state playoff run after that. So they could have 5 or 6 games after the regular season ends.
Yeah,
but
you're looking at teams, like East, and it's a bummer deal for them because they lost a game too, because the game at Tehachapi last week was canceled, not postponed, but canceled, because Highway 58 wasn't opened back up until yesterday.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get up the hill.
Night.
Yeah, so, there's a team that's only going to play 9 games, and they're not the only ones. Tehachapi's only going to play 9 games, so Denman's going to have to, win out and blah, blah, blah. And all
we'll
this
get
stuff.
to that. Yeah. Let's motor through some predictions here.
Right,
Next one up, Monache going to Delano. This is the third game we differ on. I'm going to take Monache. I just, you know what, Delano, I don't trust you right now, and I hate to say that, but gosh, they've played some teams. They've had some trouble with a team like Miramonte. They lost a game to Golden West, who hasn't won that many other games. Prove me wrong, okay? I'm taking Monache.
Toss-up game, I go with the home game in a situation like that.
I don't mind that perspective either. Right now, Delano proved me wrong. Okay. Yep. So I take Monache, you take Delano. Okay, fair enough. Let's get into the South Sequoia League. The most significant game in the SSL is probably Chavez Kennedy. We'll get to that later. But this is the most significant game as far as Bakersfield Christian can clinch a share of the league title. Arvin is a tricky place to play.
But remember, the SSL doesn't have a share of the league title. They do it by head-to-head matchups.
Well, you still clinch the share, and then you don't get a trophy in the SSL.
But how incredible is it for the Carr family to kind of right this ship and get things moving as the season progresses? Because they didn't have an easy non-league schedule.
Well, and the other thing that could happen is you talk about a share and how it would come down to head-to-head, and say BCHS loses to Taft, and then the title would go to Taft. Well, if Chavez, BCHS, and Taft all finish with 1 loss, then they would share the trophy because they'd all be 1-1 against one another.
Because Chavez beat Taft. You're right.
So it could be. Anyway, the point is, Bakersfield Christian, a little bit of a tricky assignment, but I like what you said. Austin Gaines at quarterback has sort of steadied that position for BCHS. The Cars have it rolling now offensively. Look, early in the year they struggled. Their schedule was brutal.
Yeah.
As a D3 team, it was pretty rough. And so now we're starting to see what they can do against their own league teams. I think they win this game, even though Arvin can be a little bit tricky. I like BCHS. Then they have a bye next week, and then they have the big finale at Taft in 2 weeks. Okay, speaking of Taft, they had the week off last week. They are at Wasco. Here's a stat I looked up. Last 5 years before this season, Wasco had only lost 3 regular season home games. 3 of them. Count them, 3. They've already lost 2 this year, so this would be the 3rd. Any way Wasco can find a way to win this game like they did against Chavez last year?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it's just not the Wasco that we've seen in years past. I think there's just some issues going on there. And I think Taft has really kind of, found a way to really play some good defense and a really explosive offense.
Yeah. Well, and I agree
not
with
at
you.
all. I mean, obviously some good defenses like Chavez have exposed them, but I think Taft is still a heck of a team.
22-3 at home during the regular season the past 5 seasons. They are 1-2 at home this year. So Wasco would love to get that win, but right now it looks tough. I think they hang with Taft for a little while, but I think Taft wins. Okay, let's move into. We'll get to the other SSL game in a minute. Let's move into the Southeast Yosemite League. South High, the big win over Highland last week, following it up a game against Foothill. Foothill's defense has been a little bit better this year, but you know what South High does with teams that they're overmatched against? They run them out of the building.
Devin McCord, P.J. Jones, quarterback Arias Harris, those guys are playmakers, and I think that they're going to have one of their bigger games in this one.
By the way, Zach's prediction, South 49, Foothill 12. Trevor's prediction, South 48, Foothill 12. Get out of here, man.
Dude,
Jeez.
I did my predictions before you did, so I'm going to go ahead and say you're in my head.
I picked 12 because I thought it was unique. I should have known better with you. Okay, Highland at Miramonte. Or, I'm sorry, Miramonte at Highland, excuse me.
Yeah.
The game is at Highland, at Scotland Yard. Only question for me here, can Highland shake off what was a really disappointing loss? Because, honestly, the Scots walk away from that game at South last week thinking we should have won. We should be in the driver's seat in this league. Instead, at this point, you got to hope maybe South trips up against North and you get a three-way tie or something. But, that's the one question is, can they pick themselves back up?
And that's my biggest issue. I still have Highland win this game, but I see it as a lot closer game because I think that, they're high school kids, and sometimes it's a little hard to get up for a game like this after losing such a heartbreaker to South.
Such an important game to lose it, kind of in the fourth quarter like that. It's tough, but you have Highland winning just 19-13. I have 38-13.
Right.
South Yosemite League.
Look at this one.
Tehachapi, by the way, needed 10 wins this year to get Steve Denman to 300. They had an outside shot at it until they lost that game against East last week. Now I think it's going to be really, really difficult.
They have to either
win out.
If they win out, which means beating Ridgeview at home next week,
and winning at West.
Yeah, and winning out the regular season, they would have to win the semifinals and get to the finals. The second,
right. If they
get to
could
300.
go 2-1 to finish the season, they would have to win the entire D3 bracket,
which would be such a neat story.
Oh, it would be
if that did happen. But it looks like
not a very likely
Denman and
story,
Snyder and company are all going to have to come back next year to get.
And I don't think they'll mind that at all. Anyway, we do think Tehachapi will take care of Golden Valley here by similar scores again: 35-13 for you, 34-14 for me. Speaking of similar scores, Ridgeview hosting East, number 1 Wolfpack. I took 55-6. You took 56-6. Come on, miss that extra point. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, really.
Jamar Moya is still out for Ridgeview, but I don't think it really matters.
Why, if he's banged up at all, don't play him.
Exactly. They're not going to.
Yeah, and it's one of those games, I think both coaches, if you could hook them up to a truth serum, they don't want to play this game. It's just, it's fun for the kids and everything. The coaches, somebody's just going to get hurt.
Well, it's homecoming too.
Yeah, somebody's just going to get hurt. It's not preparing Ridgeview for section and state playoffs. It's not helping East get any better because the talent levels right now are so much different.
Yeah.
But got to play what's on the schedule. So Ridgeview will beat East. West is on the road at Independence. This is a good one now in the SYL. You get a good game every week in the SYL, at least one, because there's a lot of evenly matched teams. We both went West here. What's your thinking?
I think that there's more playmakers on that side of the ball than there is for Independence. I think Independence is a really good team. I think that's what it is. I think Josh Boyd's going to get a couple touchdown passes. That's going to be the difference.
Independence has been playing better, but I took West as well. Okay, Chavez and Kennedy, this is the SSL game we talked about. What a cool deal for both of these schools that were a couple of years ago basically irrelevant in the Central section. We've talked about it all year, how they've turned that around. Casey Quinn at Chavez, Dennis Moody at Kennedy. Now they get to play a really meaningful game where the winner is going to be alive for that three-way tie scenario. Mm-hmm. A loser is pretty much eliminated from the SSL race. So this is a really, really important game. And then they have to go root for Taft to beat BCHS to get to the three-way tie, which could happen. So important game. Again, Chavez defense against Kennedy offense. I'm gonna side with the Chavez defense. I really like the Titans this year.
That's what I'm doing. It's a quick one, 21-14 Chavez.
Okay, into the SWIL now. Frontier at Stockdale. Still have Stockdale in the top 25. They're not going to be there if they lose many more games. They've played teams tough, but you got to win one at some point.
Right.
Any chance for the Mustangs getting Brett Shelton back on the sideline?
I think there's always a chance. I just don't know. I like Frontier. I think Frontier is a great team. I think Stockdale's a great team. I think it's going to be a matchup of two good running backs with Cameron Meek at Frontier and Elijah Ortiz over at Stockdale, but I still see Frontier winning this game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Stockdale's good enough to win this game, but they're in kind of disarray. Frontier's they've lost 2 in a row, but they're more desperate. They still have something to play for.
Yeah.
To me, the intangibles all point me to Frontier here. I'll take them in a close one, 35-27. Liberty at Garces. This is Garces homecoming. It's a 7 o'clock game for those of you going out to that one a half hour early. And the Patriots, for them right now, is just stay focused and keep rolling before those huge games at Centennial next week, home against Bakersfield in Week 10.
Man, does Liberty look good the last 2 weeks. Sorry, Garces, but I mean, this is a blowout, I think, at halftime.
Excuse me. And finally, our game of the week. Again, you can catch it live on Bakersfield.com. Game night starts at 7 o'clock with Vance Palm, and the kickoff will be scheduled for 7:30 from Griffith Field. I'll be out there with Louis Amistoy. We might get Kirk Boyer out there to help me call the game as well. Centennial 5-2, BHS 4-3, both 2-0 in the SWIL. Both still have hopes of a pretty high seed in the D1 playoffs. Both still have to play Liberty. So in a lot of ways, it's a must-win for both games, both teams. They're both good teams. That's what makes it fun. You talk first. Why'd you take? We differ here. You tell me what your pick is.
I've seen both of these teams now. I've seen BHS twice, and I just see Centennial's defense probably is going to have a better matchup against Bakersfield's offense, and I think that's the biggest difference. I think both of these teams have really good defense, but I think that Centennial has an offense that might be able to get past the defenders on BHS, and yeah, I don't know.
And as for me, I have not seen Bakersfield this year, so I'm at a disadvantage to you there. But I just don't like picking against the Drillers in big games. I tried to do it last week. It burned me. I'm not doing it again at Griffith Field. Homecoming. Just think BHS finds a way to get it done in a game between very evenly matched teams. So again, we're live 7 o'clock tomorrow night from BHS with BVarsity Game Night. Thanks to the Centennial Golden Hawks, by the way, for coming in. Very gracious of them. Chad Brown, Parker Holbrook, and Brandon Robinson were here. Our producer is John Farrand. That's Trevor Horn. I'm Zach Ewing. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.
Oh. Say goodbye, Zach.
Goodbye.
Looking deep down the left side, Mendeville into the inside.